Oh, hey, all you avid YouTubers, BoobTubers, and all the F word tubers. It's Beardiest Gaming with Dean, aka Raul. Don't really know what his real name is, and he's not telling us anytime soon. He might have a known felony out there, but we don't
Not
judge
telling
here.
them my name in a post-Patriot Act America, that's for sure.
Right, exactly. You never know who is going to pick up this recording, but probably no one. Where
Fucking
we had last
racist.
left off, Dean, aka Ramalama Jam Jam, and also by the surname Raul Duke, had been espousing his opinion, strong opinion, founded, grounded in history of warrior women, and we had left off with the Joan of Arc mythos, if you will, and how I was postulating that a peasant girl coming out. I mean, it would be like as throwing a hillbilly farmer, illiterate farmer, into the ring with a trained hand-to-hand combatives, combat veteran, or even just a trained pit fighter, a trained UFC MMA fighter, and likely that they'd come out on top. Um, and we were getting into where she ranks on things. Now, I know she had to get dressed up in armor. She had a small escort, and to better protect her because I think evidently at this time, just traveling through the countryside with a woman with only like one guy guarding her, two guys guarding her was a risky proposition because there'd be, I guess you're just asking for a gang of rapers, or I guess today we call them rapists. But I was always kind of fond of the word raper. Regardless, you're just asking for a gang rape to go on. And this did, in fact, play a part in her burning. She was accused of cross dressing, which evidently was a crime um, worthy of being tied to a stake and roasted like a marshmallow or a kebab. So, Dean, your take. Good, bad, ugly. Where is Joan of Arc's niche in today's era?
Oh, in modern society, she's co-opted as some sort of general, like successful military general or uh, some sort of, innate female tactician. She never saw combat, so that's false. Anyone who says that, she maybe she got wounded or something like that, but she never picked up a sword and engaged a combatant. I think she got hit with a crossbow bolt once. She couldn't mind her own business. But
This is correct.
yeah,
I think that was in the Siege of Paris.
yeah, she never engaged in man on man melee combat in any way. Um,
Man on woman.
yeah, well, I think that's a crime these days. Um, so we can throw all those notions right out the window. And she wasn't fucking Norman Schwarzkopf and Susan B. Anthony's love child. She wasn't a general. She had no idea of tactics. She was clearly um, being used as some sort of a pawn by someone who had half an IQ point more than her. Um, Possibly the church, possibly Charles, right? I think it was strongly indicated Charles had a hand in that. Or
It
um,
sounded like Charles was completely ineffectual. I mean, it sounded, from what I've read, it sounds like I think it was his own father dispossessed him, left the kingdom to a relative in Britain, which led to this whole succession wars, this whole 100 years of succession wars, and nobody liked him. Paris didn't like him.
no.
When they besieged Paris, they were
When's
actually
the last
fighting
time
a
anyone even
small
liked a guy named
contingent.
Charles?
I have some beef with an individual by the name of Charles,
Yeah, yeah.
ironically enough. And it might have to. I mean, maybe it's just like you mentioned. Maybe it's just
Think
intrinsic
about it.
in the name. Um,
Your
so
one
are
Vietnam
so are you
fan was
saying that
named
like if
Charles, and now he just stopped listening. Anyway,
I think it might have been,
I'm
that
saying
might have been his surname.
Joan of Joan of Arc was had was a mascot, right? She started this war. The French, she started her this what would we call it? A successful battle charge. She started this the same way fucking uh, Forrest Gump got a bunch of people to run across America. She just stood up one day, heard a voice in her head, uh, tied up her Nikes, and then started hiking out of Greenbow, Alabama. And some other subliterate moron looked at her and said, "Oh, what you running for?" And she's like, "I'm going to kill the English." And everyone's like, "Oh yeah, fuck them, fucking retards." And then they fucking take off. And then she picks up another guy and another guy. And next thing you know, she shows up at Charlie's door with all these big dummies behind her. And Charles goes, "Hey, I've got an idea." And the old fucking paraffin candle gets lit. What the hell do they have back then? Someone in the church figures out, hey, we can people kind of like this broad. Our numbers are polling really low in the battlefield, and our spin guy in the monastery says Joan of Arc gets a lot of play out in the battlefield with all the idiots. And so they started trotting her out there. They made her own little suit of armor, which was large, by all accounts, was ceremonial rather than functional, which is why she caught a crossbow bolt through the arm. But everything about this was as accidental as like we said last episode, Kirk beaming down from the Enterprise on some primitive planet and everyone accidentally thinking he's a god. But it's just a crazier story. I mean, we're dumber than the aliens in Star Trek. What does that tell you?
It does. I think we do have
Joan, she didn't even have a spaceship. All she needed to do was dress like a boy and start rolling around in the ground and thrashing and spouting gibberish and gobbledygook. Fucking playing parlor games with Charles's mind. She goes, "Oh, did you pray this morning? Hey, how did you know? God must have told you." You know, I'm not trying to mock religion, but these people were idiots.
It is. I think we have a very difficult time in today's modern era with all the advances that have been made since then. You know, being able to wrap our mind around what a peasant or a man in arms, a soldier at the time, even a knight. I mean, even a soldier, even a person back in the 1800s. You know, you look back and you'd get rid of all the technology, and you know, how far are you really going to go? You know, you don't have cars. You probably don't even have a horse if you're poor.
To know how dumb they are, all you have to do is look what they did to her. They're like that big guy in Of Mice and Men. They wanted to hear the story about the rabbits, and then they just had to squeeze and squeeze, and they killed the poor rabbit. You know, they loved her, so they had to tie her to a stake and burn her to death. Which is, you know, typically French. They need their ennui with everything. That's probably why she's their national hero. But it's some sort of bizarro world of big dumb oafs who are like, all the healthy people have been killed off already. These are the runts of the litter that they've been beefing up with cow's milk and baguette and send them to the front line.
So in today's modern world, if there was to be a Joan of Arc, if what would Joan of Arc be today? What would be her profession?
Oh, she'd just be another crazy broad. She'd blend right into the crowd, go to the mall any given day. She'd be running one of those kiosks where they try to rub creams on you, but she's real aggressive. She'd probably be one of the top salespeople.
You think she'd be good at sales?
She's probably schizophrenic. She ate some bad croissant one morning, got the swine flu, and started hearing voices, right? And before you had any concept of science or natural law or biology or even basic physics and reason, if you start hearing voices in your head, what else are you going to think? Obviously, it's God. You know, you have no concept of schizophrenia or mental health. But she just got lucky enough. She ran into a guy that just didn't kill her on sight or rape her or anything horrific like that, but actually believed the madness she was spouting. Possibly because she believed it so well herself, but, you know, isn't that living with a woman?
Ooh, I'm not touching that one. We touch on some very hot topics here at Beardiest Gaming, but that is one topic I'm not gonna touch with a 10-foot pole.
I mean,
or a hot poker.
Fucking women and religion. Like, no one cares if you shit on religion, right? But shit on a woman, and
No, that's hip
all of
now.
a sudden you got to move to Germany and record it. Anyway, um,
Right.
and it's
What is
kind of funny too that she was canonized like what 500 years later after they killed her, and it was like French goes the the French people were like, oh, okay, we're done with this mascot, so we'll kill her. And then 500 years later, they're like, hey, quick guys, we need something. We need something here. We just lost a war, big time. Yeah, they said it is the the Great War, and when we obviously sucked at it. And so they like, hey, remember that Joan of Arc chick? She seemed to work, so they pull her off the shelf, canonize her as a saint, make her the national saint of France, and so France gets a good feeling after losing W1. Well, not losing compared to the Germans, but just being a doorstop in W1 is very demoralizing war that we all know, which men all fought in, and now they take their toy, their broken toy that they ruined, and they put it back on the shelf and like, hey, let's see if we can sell this fucking warmed over bullshit again. Anyway,
Now you bring up an interesting point. It's like a form of hero worship, and oftentimes what happens with hero worship, of course, you want to be able to idolize your heroes, of course, but oftentimes I feel that, especially when a country is desperate, trying to drum up support for a particular aspect,
weren't the French always
anything,
desperate?
I don't know. I don't know if they always were. It certainly seems like the early part of the 20th century they were. Um, I mean, they had a few good run. They had a few good runs, but they've also
Because they had
been
one of the most
stomped on
fertile
quite a bit.
countries in the Mediterranean. They should have dominated, but they kept getting their asses handed to them. They kept raising these big ass armies, and marching them out there all impressively, and they kept getting crushed. Up until Napoleon, that is, who wasn't even really French.
Yeah, wasn't he Corsican?
Corsican, Maltese, I thought maybe Maltese. Anyway, yeah, maybe Corsica.
Because I think he got exiled from
Whatever. Some
Corsica,
kind of
and
we
then they
know him as an
exiled him
Italian
back there.
today. Yeah. But
Right.
back then borders were vague. So whatever. The French can claim him if they want, but ultimately, the guy died on an island, exiled. Who won?
Right, and the French kicked him out, if I'm
Yeah.
not mistaken.
Oh yeah. But I mean, he did keep trying to conquer their nation.
I
And
mean,
even
at
then
least he didn't
they
stop.
couldn't pull the trigger on killing them. They're like, "Hey, what if we just send you to it on a vacation for a while? You know, all expenses on us.
Sunny, sunny,
Yeah, nice island. No one's gonna bother you. No wars to lead.
and don't ever get near a ship again. Um,
Yeah. Or a horse. You le
he
petit
did like
corporal motherfucker.
so. Any closing thoughts on Joan of Arc? We're getting up on. We got about a minute and a half left.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
same old shit. Boudica, she's another one that gets trotted out, especially in the UK. But not much is really known from her. But she never saw combat either. The thing about women, what do we say, a minute and a half? Yeah.
about a
So
minute now.
come
Yep.
come back next time for when I bring this all around. We're going to talk about the positive aspects of women in history to lead off, and maybe a little more shit talk. Who knows?
So in the, I mean, do you think Joan of Arc could have had as successful of a campaign if she just dressed up, maybe in a little bit of thong, a little bit of lingerie, some titty tassels?
Oh yeah, let's start off with that. Next episode, Joan of Arc, titty tassels or thong girl?
All right. See y'all later, you Z words. Peace.